Tilder! What is this? This is the Fotga A50 5-inch monitor series. How much does it cost? Anywhere from $150 to $260 depending on which model you need. There's a standard model, there's a touchscreen model, a touchscreen with LUTS model, and all the above plus 3G SDI. You can use up to 2 NPF batteries. 2 of the largest NPF batteries will give you 13 hours of battery life, 8.5 hours if you're powering your camera at the same time. The monitor doesn't drain your battery when you leave it in. The monitor is super sharp and bright enough for most outdoor situations. Do I recommend it? Absolutely yes. Done. Roll that intro. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're gonna find out whether or not the Fotga A50 5-inch monitor series is gonna be the right monitor for you and your overall setup. Now, if you're new to this channel, definitely check out the pinned comments where I will have the time codes so you can kind of skip around. I'm also gonna have a frequently asked question. So if you do have a question, check out that section first before asking, because chances are I may or may not have already answered it quite a few times. So without further ado, let's get started. The Fotga A50 5-inch monitor series is actually quite unique in that there are 4 different configurations depending on what it is that you need. And because of these 4 configurations, the price range goes from $150 all the way to $260. For me, we're gonna be reviewing the TL version, which comes in at $210. So the cheapest one at $150 is simply the monitor. Everything physically about it is pretty much the same as the monitor I'm reviewing here. The next one comes in at $10 more at $160, and that gives you the touchscreen capabilities. Now, the only thing that this is useful for is when you're zooming in, you have the ability to move around to different parts of the framing. I'm not exactly sure if the standard version allows you to do this. It might, but with the touchscreen, it's definitely easier. The model that I'm reviewing today, the TL version, which comes in at $210, is a touchscreen with the ability to have 3D LUTs imported in through the USB port through the back. Lastly, the most expensive version at $260 has everything above, but it does have SDI ports within it. So depending on what it is that you need, it's really awesome that they give you different selections. So maybe you don't necessarily need the LUT feature. So you can either go with a standard or you can go with a touch. Or maybe you do need the SDI and the SDI is available. So really nice that they give you variety. Out of the box, you're gonna get the monitor itself, a detachable full plastic sun hood, a hot shoe mount that's actually quite cool in that you can tilt and you can swivel, a DC to DC male cable, and actually a full HDMI to full HDMI cable, which is awesome, a few 3/8 to 1/4-20 adapters, a little plastic cold shoe mount in case you have a cage setup, and a tiny flathead screwdriver and an Allen wrench. When it comes to this monitor, it's primarily made of plastic. The touchscreen does not have a glass in front of it, so you don't want to press down on it too hard, but it is a capacitive touchscreen, so simply tapping it will do. Up top, we have the power button, which also doubles as a disabling the touchscreen button when the monitor is on, so you don't accidentally do anything. We have 7 customizable function buttons, which is awesome, so you can pretty much get to every feature that you want. Over here, we have a scroll wheel, but it also has a click to it. So to bring up the menu, instead of having to tap the screen, simply click this once, it'll bring up the menu, scroll and navigate and do what it is you need to do. But oddly enough, you have to tap the screen to get out of the menu, or you can let it time out. On the side over here, we have 2 1/4-20s, and then we have a 3/8, depending on how you want to mount it to your rig. And we have the exact same thing on the other side. Towards the bottom over here, we have one more 3/8, but I currently have one of the 3/8 to 1/4-20 adapters. We have an HDMI port over here, but it's actually not the input, it's actually the output, and everything is labeled neatly back here. Now, in terms of the HDMI output, it is able to pass through a 4K signal. Now, if you're shooting in log and you want to use one of the LUT assist features in the Fotga, same thing like the A6 Plus, if you turn on the LUT, the HDMI output is actually not going to show the LUT assist. Your HDMI input is actually over here. This is a J6 port, which allows you to attach other accessories. I'm not really going to cover that because I actually don't know what those other accessories do because I couldn't find them. But anyways, we have a USB port over here. This is where you can load in your LUTs or update the firmware should Fotga put out extra firmware. We have our two Sony NPF battery bays. If you get the SDI version, we have your SDI ports out here. Now, do note that the SDI ports would be 3G, so it's not going to be a 4K signal. It's going to be a 1080. Then lastly, over here, we have our DC in, we have our headphones, and then we have a DC out that can go into your camera. To get to the menu, you have two ways of getting to it. You can either double tap the screen, or you can simply click on the scroll wheel up top. You'll notice that the battery meter shows up. I kind of wish the battery meter would just be on the screen all the time so that I know what my battery levels are at, but I guess this is just a minor gripe. So in displays, we have pretty much all the stuff that can assist you while on set. So we have our safety markers, which is generally just dotted lines to show your aspect ratio. We have a center mark, kind of like a crosshair. Now, marker matte is what I actually like instead of using the safety marker, because the marker matte, instead of just having dotted lines, it's actually going to blacken it out and darken it out. So you can really see exactly what your framing is, and that's definitely the better one. We can choose the marker color, how thick the lines should be, whether we want to be an underscan or overscan. I usually go underscan. Video aspect, pretty much auto, everything 16:9 these days. We do have anamorphic modes, so you can go from 2 times magnification, 1.5, 1 and 3, and a couple other ones. Zooming, of course, if you're going to pinch and zoom, you can go through here. We can freeze a shot for a split second. We can rotate depending on which way our monitor is facing. Dot to dot for pixel to pixel. And next. Function. So pretty much over here, we can determine what kind of functions we want to turn on if we want to go into monochrome mode. We have false color, we have peaking, we have the color that you would like for your focus peaking, zebras, a nice histogram, audio bars if you want to monitor your audio a little bit, color bars, and then of course down over here is where all the magic happens, where our 7 function buttons can be customized to what we like. Next is our LUTs. Of course, you can turn it on. This is where you would import, and same thing like the Hdmi A6 Plus, in order to import from your USB drive, you need to make sure you're in a FAT32. You need to make sure the LUT is no bigger than 8 megabytes. And do you see how this says dina.cube and the cube is in lowercase? You have to make sure it's in lowercase. And in terms of the name, if yours has like a super long name, I would just make it shorter, maybe 4 letters and preferably no numbers, because for some reason that seems to confuse these systems. Next, we have our basics. So all these settings that you see right here, this is as close as I can get it in terms of matching the back screen of my GH5, because I'm more used to what my results are from the back of the GH5 screen. So if you're a GH5 user, these are the numbers that you would need to enter in to get it as close as you can to your back monitor. Lastly, we have system, so we can choose our language. We can determine if this menu is going to have slightly transparency. The on-screen time, I just keep it on as always, so it doesn't turn off, or the menu doesn't disappear on me. And of course, now this does say it has a fan. I don't think this specific model, the A50 TL, has one, but I think the other ones probably do. Because when I have it on, I don't hear anything. That, or maybe the fan is just super silent. I'm not sure. And then lastly, we have all these other things right here. And to get out of the menu, simply tap. One of the awesome features is the fact that you can use 2 Sony NPF batteries instead of 1. So if you are powering the monitor completely by itself, I tested this with my largest Sony NPF battery made by Customizable. I was able to get 13 hours, which is pretty much insane. Now, if I am powering my camera through the additional DC port, my GH5, then I was getting approximately 8.5 hours. So with two of the largest batteries, whether they be the ones for Constar or maybe a much higher quality, you're pretty much going to be good for the entire day with this monitor. Now, one last thing that people want to know is when you have an NPF battery inside, the little standby LED is not going to turn on, so you're not going to drain your batteries. Whereas with the Hdmis and the A6 before it, for some reason, if you do have a battery inside, the red LED does turn on, so it is slowly draining your battery. Similar to the A6 Plus, the zoom function does not pixelate the image and it stays sharp, which is awesome if you need to punch in to check your focus during a shot. For a 1080p screen, this monitor is actually quite sharp and bright, and you can easily pull focus indoors or outdoors. I recently used it for a gimbal review where I was pulling focus on the fly with the gimbal, and I was able to nail the focus each take. So what's the bottom line here? Do I actually prefer the Fotga A50 series, or do I like the Hdmi A6 Plus series? Because both of these monitors pretty much offer the exact same feature sets, but there are a couple differences. The A50 I like because it has different price tiers. So let's say you do need a 5-inch monitor, but you don't need all the extra bells and whistles. You just need a solid 5-inch monitor that has all the other physical features minus the SDI ports. If that's the case, $150 is really not that bad for a monitor that performs this well. And of course, if you do need the touchscreen feature, it's only an additional $10, which still puts it quite low under the Hdmi A6 Plus. But there's actually a couple more things. I love the fact that you can use two Sony NPF batteries instead of one. Using the largest one giving you 13 hours of operation or 8.5 hours of operation if you're powering your camera at the same time, that's really not that bad. I also love the Hdmi layout of the A50 series. I like the fact that it's not sticking out straight to the side and that all the important outputs are actually in the back. This gets it out of the way, and to me, I feel like it allows me to cable manage a lot easier. Now, the HDMI port output is going through the bottom. Depending on how you have your rig set up, this could get in the way, but generally speaking, it probably won't. The only thing that I can think of is if I use the wireless HDMI Nyrus series where it plugs directly into the HDMI port, I could run into some problems, but if I just get an HDMI extender, that will be just fine. The next thing I love about the A50 series is the sun hood. I like the fact that it's not just a piece of plastic that has to be Velcroed on when you want to use it. It snaps right on, it folds right out, and it's made of hard plastic. It also kind of doubles as a screen protector when you're transporting because you can just fold it right on top of itself and there you go. Your screen won't get damaged if you're transporting it in your Pelican case. I also love the hot shoe mount, this kind of weird swivel thing. Because the Hdmi A6 Plus, they use that hot shoe bracket, and while it works, it's not necessarily built with the correct tolerances of the hot shoe. Not only is this thing built quite well to all tolerances, but you can tilt the monitor and you can pan it left and right. So maybe you're not directly behind your camera, you don't have to do anything weird, just simply, boom, move it over, and then therefore you can see the monitor quite easily. And lastly, and this is totally a personal opinion, I actually like the tactile custom function buttons instead of having to tap the screen to access those function buttons. Mainly it's because tapping the screen or swiping the screen is an extra step, whereas these buttons are just quick, they're there, you click it once, and there you go. And hey, that is it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, it just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next one.